Papua New Guinea's police commissioner has contradicted the immigration minister Peter Dutton, saying it was wrong to suggest a shooting at the Manus Island detention centre was sparked by concerns for a local child's welfare. Mr Dutton had earlier claimed PNG soldiers fired shots into the facility because of concerns for the safety of the 5-year-old who'd been led into the centre. Here's PNG correspondent Eric Twarchek.
At the time, on Good Friday, what happened was, according to both the PNG police, the Papua New Guinea Defence Force and also the asylum seekers themselves, was that there was an altercation over the use of the sporting field at the naval base, which is surrounding the detention centre on Manus Island. The asylum seekers were told they were not allowed to use the field after 6 p.m, and then an argument occurred in which the duty officer for the base was allegedly assaulted by the asylum seekers. And that is supposed to be, according to the Papua New Guinea Defence Force and the Papua New Guinea Police, what provoked the violent response from the soldiers stationed next to the Manus Island detention centre. What Peter Dutton is referring to is an incident that was reported by security at the base, in which a small boy was reportedly brought into the centre. Now, this occurred up to a week before the actual attack on Good Friday. It has been police at the centre who are investigating the attack have substantiated it, but they say it's completely unrelated. And the Manus Island police commander has said Mr Dutton is wrong to suggest it's what triggered the attack. He said the boy was brought on because he was at the front gate of the centre asking for money or food, and that asylum seekers brought him through the gates of the centre, which are manned by both foreign and local staff, and gave him some fruit, and then the guards withdrew the boy from the centre. He said there was no complaint made to the police and no concern that he'd been sexually assaulted.
So, Eric, do we know where the immigration minister may have got that information from that linked to that supposed the visit by the 5-year-old boy into the detention centre?
Well, it seems to have come from a guard within the centre, someone employed by the Australian government as a contractor. It is true that a boy was brought into the centre, but asylum seekers there say it was a week before the actual Good Friday attack, and that it was done with the knowledge of the staff. And the boy, according to police, was 10 years old. They've spoken to the boy's parents. It was 10 years old, not 5 years old, and that there was no concern for his welfare in the end. He was checked and he didn't claim any mistreatment, and it appeared he was just given some fruit by the asylum seekers. The asylum seekers in the centre say they made, like staff at the front gate, were among those being asked for money and food by the boy, and were aware of the reason he was brought inside, and there was no reprisal or anger or follow-up as a result of that visit. And indeed, it was, at least a week between that incident and the actual attack by the soldiers on the detention centre.
And Eric, how would you describe those tensions between the people inside the detention centre, the PNG soldiers and also the police?
Well, we know that there's tension now between the police and the soldiers, and some dispute over who has responsibility for security at the centre. There's a detachment of police that are stationed there, and it's quite lucky they were there, in fact, because they were the ones who tried to prevent the incursion into the centre by the armed soldiers. Police say those soldiers were drunk, and we see video of them attempting to ram one of the compound gates. We see video of shots being fired and damage from those shots in one of the accommodation compounds. So we know there's ongoing police between the two security forces stationed at the centre. Obviously, the expatriate staff and contractors employed at the centre were also placed at risk and were also injured in that attack, according to the Papua New Guinea police. So there's a very serious issue of who's in control, who's responsible, and in fact about whether the expatriate staff are safe as well as the asylum seekers within the centre. And naturally, all of this is inflamed by the comments by the minister about, the cause of this actual attack on Good Friday.
Eric, thanks for the latest. That's our correspondent, Eric Twarchek in Port Moresby.